What's up,
What's
everybody? Welcome back to the Love of Rice podcast with your host, Aunt Ma.
I'm your other host, Christina.
And if you guys are new to our podcast, make sure to
Welcome.
subscribe, like, comment. We are on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio. I think Google has stopped, so it is now YouTube podcast. So you get to see both the visuals and just
And you
listening
get to just
it.
listen in.
We are also on Instagram and
TikTok?
Yes. So thank you guys. If you are returning listeners, we love that you're here with us.
And welcome back.
Today we're going to be talking about dun, 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 dun.
This is something we always talk
What
about.
was that?
I
You're
don't
like,
Well, because I was like, how do I word this? But I feel like every time we do something in our lives, now that we have kids,
Yeah.
we're always reminiscing about how our childhood used to be. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of our episodes, we talk about like traumatic experiences we've had in our childhoods. But at the same time, we have a lot of great memories and things that we've done while growing up that I'm like, man, I wish our kids were doing this before. Like, I feel like they're being robbed of their childhood right now.
So we have both experiences of, what we did as a child and what we see our children go through now. And so times are different. We all know that, right? There's technology nowadays. There's so many other things going on with schools, and it's
There's
just
a
not
lot
the
of
same.
distractions.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about how it was having a childhood before compared to how it is now, because it's completely different. And how do we adjust to that? How do we change all that? So, I'm pretty sure all of you guys out there who have kids, you guys can relate to this episode. And for the ones that are going to have some in the future, this might be something that you guys want to kind of soak in a little bit here.
Right. Yeah. Like for me, I feel like some of my best childhood memories are from being outside and just like I don't know, just being out in nature, right? And being in the sunlight all the time. And
You don't think kids go outdoors right now?
I feel like they do, but a lot of the times kids prefer to, I don't know, they just want to be watching TV or they want to play on their tablets or iPads or they want to use our phones and stuff like that.
Now, is that the difference in the times, or is that just a personal difference? Because when I was younger, I wanted TV all the time. I wanted video games all the time.
Oh, well, I guess maybe it's different because you're a guy. Because for me, I felt like I wanted to play outside more. And also probably because I had my two older brothers, so I had other siblings to play with. So they would introduce me to all these sports. Like I was a tomboy back then, so I'd be playing basketball outside. We would be playing like hockey or like rollerblading together or riding bikes and stuff like that.
I mean, I would do all that too.
But you would prefer to be indoors playing games.
I don't prefer. I would love to be outdoors and I would love to play video games. It's just, how am I going to schedule my day to do all that? So like,
So what a tough childhood.
when you're a kid and it's the summer, you get to do whatever you want all day, all night. Your parents are working. They're not even home. You're by yourself or you're at your cousin's house. And so what we did is, right when we wake up, we go play some video games for a couple hours, and then after we eat lunch or lunch is being made by, somebody, then we will go outside and play some basketball, for the next couple hours. And then when it got too hot and we're tired, we're going back in to play video games again, And then when we get bored of playing the video games, we go back out and ride our bikes down to town and do things outdoors, go pog shopping.
Oh my gosh, I used to love playing with pogs. Yeah.
Yeah, me and my
The
cousin,
metal
we
ones.
used to ride our bike probably like almost a mile to a pog shop. And we would go to the pog shop and, everyone,
Wait, for the people who don't know what that is.
pogs?
Yes.
You guys-
have to
I mean-
explain it. A lot of people don't know. I
We're
completely
just not
forgot
gonna
about that.
we're just not gonna let them Google it. We're gonna explain it.
No, you
All
have
right.
to explain it.
So Pogs is a game we played when, for these old people here.
Stop. Why do you always have to do
But basically, they're like these little circle paper things that look like, I don't know, maybe
It's
paper.
almost like a mini coaster,
oh,
right? Like
yeah,
a,
or like a circle paper trading card, like trading
Yes,
cards,
yes.
right? And so you would stack up these little pogs, and you have a slammer. A slammer is a heavier pog made out of metal or something else. And so as you stack up these trading card pogs, you have to whack it with your slammer, and if those
If they
pogs
flip.
flip over, you get to keep them. And so you would play that until they're all gone. And basically, if you keep them, you keep them. They're
Yeah.
yours, right?
Yep.
And so I remember some of my favorite pogs were actually back when people used to read the LA Times, the newspaper,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
they had the Olympic editions, and so every Sunday they would have a different country pog in the newspaper. So I would go to the the machines where you put in like a quarter to get the newspaper, and
Yes.
there's like
Yes.
10 stacks in
I
there.
forgot about
Well,
those.
I would open that up and I would take a pog from each of those newspapers.
Oh my gosh. You would take the pog from you
Well,
would
yeah, that's
still.
all I wanted it for, right? Just the
Wow.
comics and the pogs.
You were that kid, huh?
So, I mean, shoot, I'd be sad if I lost Pogs, right? So, yeah, I would go Pog shopping with my cousin. That's what we would do when we go out. And then next to the Pog store was a video rental store. And then we would rent
Mm.
movies and rent video games and then take that back to the house and then play more games or watch movies.
Yeah, like
So
Blockbuster, right?
that's what I'm saying. Like, as a child, I did have a lot of technology. It went from Nintendo to Super Nintendo to computer games to,
But I feel like that kind of technology is very different, like from our time compared to like technology now, because it's so advanced. So for us, like these games that we played on the Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, and all of those, right? Like those games were very interactive, and you had to like actually use your brain and your mind and try to figure out how to like beat these different levels to get to the next one. And a lot of times now kids like to just watch things like they
well,
we give our kids the option. They have a tablet that they can use to play games so that they can learn. It's interactive, right? And then they have the option of watching TV.
I feel like this is more of an age thing. The reason why our kids are watching TV or playing tablet right now is because they're not very good at the outdoor stuff at this age. Meaning that they're not very good at roller skating, they're not good at skateboarding or riding bikes by themselves yet. You know what I mean? So that's why they're indoors, you know, refining their skills on these tablets and stuff. But I think once they hit a certain age and they perfect riding a bike and things like that, they would definitely do that more.
True, but I guess I'm just talking about like kids in general, right? Because I mean, at our age, like I mean, I guess at that age for them, they weren't old enough to be able to play the games that we were playing as well. But I remember being outside a lot. You
I do
know?
too, but I
Yeah.
was also playing games a lot. Like I'm the master at Street Fighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like going from playing video games inside a house to riding our bike to the donut shop that now has an arcade system and putting in coins and playing Street Fighter from in the arcade system. Like it's nonstop video games for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So I guess like just I don't know. I
And
think when you're having your kids do these certain things while they're like still younger, and then as they get older, I get worried that it's gonna become a habit for them. Because like when I see my nephews, right, they're 10 and 12, right, they're at
right.
that age now, and they're older. They don't really want to play as much with like their other cousins, like being outside and doing outdoorsy things. They'd rather just like be playing video games with each other.
Well, which is fine. So here's the difference now with the nowadays stuff. It's like if I see my kid having this passion for video games, now I'd be like, hey, if you're gonna play this much, you better get good at it and let's go play some tournaments. You want to do some tournaments? You know what I mean? But if they're like, I'm too scared or I don't want to, okay, you know what? Then video games isn't gonna really take you anywhere. Let's just chill out on the video games a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But if they really love it, like I loved video games so much that I wanted to create games. I always wanted to work for a video game company, but I never had the parents to help me with those opportunities to see that you can do those things, right? It was just always
Right.
get that safe job and whatnot. But now you can be like, hey, let's go work for COD. Let's go work for whatever, right? But
Yeah, so I guess that's the difference with how our childhood was before compared to now. Because back then, our parents weren't as involved in what we're doing, right? Before,
right,
we used to be able to just have our own schedule. We would do whatever we wanted with our day. If we wanted to play outside, like the crazy thing thinking about it right now is that we used to be able to go outside, ride our bikes, just like be in front of the house, in the streets, whatever. And we didn't have to worry about anything. Like it
Well,
was
yeah,
safe.
like you said, well, it's not safe. It was just that our parents weren't around to watch us. So when we're bored in the house, we go out and explore,
Yeah,
you
but we
know?
could. Because, like, say with our kids, I mean,
We
yes,
could
they're.
because our parents weren't around,
Yeah, but my mom could have been in the house working, and it's like,
right?
well, I'm just working. So if you're going to go out, you're going to just go outside. But
Exactly.
for us, we're still home too, but we're also working. But if the kids are like, hey, I want to go play outside, we're going to be like,
Well, we
let me finish
stopped,
this
right.
first, and then I'll go out with you so I can watch you.
Right, and that's the difference. That's what I'm saying. The freedom is different. Now we're like, there's so much going on. Anything can happen. We want to take care of our kids, but in our era, our parents were like, go outside, don't bother me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And from there, we're like, you know, now I'm like burning all these bugs on the floor, right? Or I'm getting chased by a dog outside. Like they have no idea what's going on. And then all of a sudden, now I'm hanging out down the street with some other neighbors, and they're like 20-year-olds drinking beer and stuff, and like
Mm-hmm.
they don't know any of that stuff, right? But because we lived it, this is why when our kid says, I want to go ride a bike outside, we say, okay, let me finish my work and we'll go together.
Well, for me, I prefer to be out there because I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want anything to happen to them. And nowadays, you keep hearing all these stories about kids getting kidnapped and trafficked and all these things. So it's like I would love to let you go outside and play on your own while I have to get this work done instead of making you wait for me or just not be able to play at all. But I'd rather not. Like I just have to be there to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah, I think at the younger age of like between 5 and 10, I was skateboarding and riding my bike outside. Um, Maybe because I did kung fu for like 10 years at that point. My parents were like, okay, you could handle yourself. But yeah, I was getting chased by dogs. I was getting bit by dogs outside and had to go into the house and tell my parents to take me to the emergency room and things like that. I think they're willing to risk that for freedom.
Yeah, I think because they didn't realize that things could happen, they're like, "Oh, what's the harm in just having you play outside? Like, what's the big deal? What
Is
are
it
the chances of something happening?"
a lot?
You know? But there's more chances of you just being outside and playing and nothing happening and coming back versus getting
Do
hurt
you,
or bit by a dog or
so do
something.
you think that at the time our parents let us do whatever we want is because they were uneducated, or is it because we are babying our kids?
I think that they didn't have a choice because they just had to work and they weren't around. They were trying to make it, right?
I mean, I don't have a choice either, but I force things, right? Because I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it was just the way of living for our parents. Like they were immigrants, they came out here, they were trying to survive, and I think for them back in those days, work was the number one priority versus now like everyone is more focused on like work life balance and trying to be more involved with their kids and be in their lives and like be emotionally and intellectually connected with them. Like
Yeah.
back then they're just like, oh, you're just gonna figure it out, I'll teach you some of the fundamentals, but you kind of have to like do things on your own type of thing. And then they raised us to be like hard asses too. Like it was like tough love. And I feel like what you're saying before is that maybe we are sheltering our kids more than we were ever sheltered ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the difference because our parents let us get hurt. They let us do whatever, and I would say we ended up being like pretty tough as people.
Now to think about it, I don't think my parents were uneducated about leaving me alone and doing those
I don't
having
think
freedom
so. They're
because
smart.
they
Yeah.
left me with my grandma,
Mm-hmm.
but my grandma is the one that's like, I'm just gonna be sewing. You do whatever you want.
Yeah, and that was the same for
You
my
know.
mom because back then they were able to do what they wanted and they had the chance to be bored and not have like much to do. They didn't have all the
Yeah.
luxuries and activities that we have. So they're like, "Oh, cool. I'm going to go play Chinese jump rope. I'm going to go create this new game. I'm going to go like braid
I
my friend's hair and stuff like that, to kill time."
I don't even think those times I spent the summers at my cousin's house, my parents, his parents, my grandma, ever even knew that every day we were going to a summer school to join these sports tournaments. Like we would just go there ourselves. And I am thinking about it right now. I don't
How
think
would
they
they not
knew
know?
because they're not around. His parents are working. They got a store.
Yeah.
My parents already sent me off for the whole summer. My
Mm.
grandma's like not even making us food. We got to go Jack in the Box, ride our bike, and get food ourselves every day. So now we're riding our bikes to the school down the street, and we're like looking through the fence. Oh, what are these kids doing? And then the teacher for the summer is like, hey, come join us.
Yeah.
And we're joining these all these kind of tournaments, and we're getting like prizes of like ribbons, first place basketball, second place this sport, and
Hmm.
like, damn, dude, I really had no one to watch me when I was a kid. Now that I think about it,
But would you like so if you would get these awards and rewards and things for tournaments and things that you're winning, were you showing your parents and saying, "Oh, like I got this,"
I think
or were you
so.
hiding it from them?
No, I think I showed them.
Oh.
I don't remember. I mean, it's not like I would go home every night. It's literally the whole summer I would stay at my cousin's house.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because even though my parents were working all the time and they didn't really have time to like talk to us or be there with us or like could they didn't really have an education, right? So they couldn't help with homework and stuff like that. That's what I had my brothers for. And maybe that's what helped with like the closeness between all of us because we had to depend on each other for academics. But I felt like still had to be involved because they were also still very strict with what I was doing on a daily basis. But then like if I was in a sport or an after school class or whatever it was, like I had to tell them because I had to get permission. You know what I mean? So they would know, but they wouldn't be involved either.
Most of the outdoor activities that we did when it's not summertime is through school activities. So it's like the reason why we played outside so much was because after school, we're in after school programs and it's literally like a 2 hour recess. And you're just playing kickball, soccer, football, whatever it is until your parents
Like
pick
Pee
you
Wee
up from work.
sports.
Right. And until your parents pick you up from work, right? So like throughout the year, you're outside even after school. And then when you get to high school, you're also still outside because you're on the sports teams or whatnot. And then when you get home, you're practicing your sport. And so you're outside all the time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just the school activities is what definitely helps it.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if this was the same for you growing up, but just um because we were close to us, we lived across the street from the school that we went to. We went there for 9 years,
Yeah.
and there was a park right next door. So then, when my parents wouldn't have time, we would like the kids would get together and we would go to the park. I don't know if it was probably over the summers, and then they would have like open rec. And then
Right.
you can go there. They have activities for you guys to play with. There's like ping pong tables and other things. You
See,
can go.
that's what I'm saying. It depends on the parents and how they set up the kids' activities, right? Because all the outdoors ones is because you went to a program at the park, right?
Yeah, but
And
did other people have that? Like, did you have that option growing up? Like to
I had, well, not like a park, but I would have like Chinese school for the whole summer, and you're spending outside the whole time. Um, then there is also church camps that I would go to,
I don't
and
think I ever
church
went to a
camps
church
were
camp.
like we're either going camping or we're going to Catalina Island or somewhere else, and there's always outdoor stuff that we're doing.
I
So
never
it's
got to
like,
do that growing up. That's
right,
crazy.
because your parents have to put you in the programs where
Right.
people take you out.
Yeah, for me Chinese school was only on weekends. It was probably only on every Saturday. Like
Right.
it was never after school. But these park programs that I was talking about, like it was basically open to the public, and then people would go there and then they would serve free lunch every day if you come at a certain time. And then you can like we would just go there, have lunch, play around at the park, play in the playgrounds, and then we would just come back and that was it.
Right. So like our kids right now, the only time they really go out is if we go do stuff with them outside, take them to the park, all that kind of stuff. But then also when we put our kids to the after school programs, then that's when they're out as well. So it's literally, I don't think it's about childhood then versus now and technology. It's more about the parents. And
Yes.
I think what it is that because there is technology now, the parents today have our work life is, I think, is so much harder than it is back then because we're juggling multiple things, right? Where other ones are just like surviving off one business. Everyone's trying to do multiple businesses, from like rental homes to their own passions and then their regular work, right? So it's like they're taking advantage of the technology and the busy work schedule that they have. They let their kids play with the technology while the adults have to do what they got to do.
And
So
maybe that's what the difference is with parenting then and now also, because there's so much access to all of this technology and new things to discover, that like the workload you're saying is very difficult, and it's crazy because
mhm,
we're always nowadays we're trying to pursue our passions and dip our feet into like all these different type of things, so we're so busy. So it's like, okay, well, we don't really have an option but to let our kids like try to do all
right.
these. Yeah.
So it's like I said, I really think it's an age thing. So it's like from 5 to 10, it's all these school programs that the parents put you in, and then from 10 to 18, it's more of you are doing things on your own because now you can take care of yourself, and then like your early teen or your young adult lives, they still do stuff for you.
Yeah.
Like there'll be times when my mom says, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I'm like, 17, and I can drive at this point, and she's like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, you know what? I really want to go snowboarding all the time," and she'll get me a season pass in Mount High. You know,
I see.
and so now every weekend I'm driving out there and going snowboarding every weekend. So like I'm always active. I am still playing games in between all that. You know.
Yeah. I think because the lifestyle is so different as parents now too, that like back then it was just very straightforward. It was like very black and white. You just have to do one thing for the day and then that's it.
Yeah.
Um
I was
s-
I was probably doing summer camps every summer.
I think for us we're just doing summer school. But I think we just had more free play back in our childhood. And then versus now, like a lot of kids have more structured activities and extracurricular activities. Maybe
Yeah.
you had it when you were growing
Mine was
up.
pretty structured.
Yeah, mine
I
was
mean,
not. So just seeing the difference now, and then when we're like talking about putting our kids into other classes and extracurricular activities,
yeah.
and you're asking me like, should we enroll them in painting or art and all these things? I'm like, I have no idea because I didn't really experience it. Or if my parents they enrolled me into like an art class one time, and it was because my cousins were doing it.
Yeah.
So I was just tagging along with them to go, but after a while they're like, "Well, I don't want to pay for this anymore."
Right.
And then they'll just pull me out. So I guess that's the difference. Like when we try to plan these things for our kids, I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know, should they do this? How long does
Yeah.
it work? What are the logistics? Like how much is it? How many times per week and stuff like that.
Yeah, mine was pretty structured because it would either be, a lot of times it would be basketball summer camps. So I would be going to school, but it's like 4 or 6 hours of straight basketball.
Oh, I see.
know,
Yeah, I didn't go through that
from
at
from
all.
morning to like normal school hours, right? During the whole summer. And I would love it because I get to play basketball the whole day,
Yeah.
right? Then you have your Chinese school summers, right? Where you spend the whole summer learning Chinese, but it's like that's a lot of freedom because with Chinese school, I have to find a way to get there. We have our own lunches, and I don't know. It's structured. There's schedules, but there's a lot of freedom away from the family.
Yeah. So it really depends on the lifestyle and definitely your parents then.
Yeah. So no one can say that, oh, nowadays all kids want to do is play games. It's just because you, as the parents, have not paid for your child's extracurricular activities.
Yeah, that
You
would
know what
be
I'm
my
saying?
family. Yeah, like I
Right.
would be at home playing Chinese jump rope by myself because my brothers aren't going to play with me. If you don't know what Chinese jump rope is, it's basically like an elastic band, and then you would have two people holding the band, and there's different levels that you have to do. You have to like jump over it, you have to crisscross, do all these things, and it gets higher and higher and higher. You have to be able to jump all of that. And then it was not too many people played, or at least my brothers
I
didn't.
played it a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Like
I'm down to play.
it was right now.
I'm serious. I'm
I
down
don't
to
remember
play.
how to play it, but like if I had no one to play with, like I would have chairs or dining room chairs, and I would wrap the elastic around there and just play on my own and stuff. And
Yeah.
that was my childhood growing up, where I would play like Mash. Do you remember Mash?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like basically you're drawing some kind of outline of like predicting your
Your
future
future. Yeah.
on a piece of paper.
I think a lot of people still do that.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone do that. Or like learning the art of doing origami, like folding all these different like animals and stuff with it. I think that was basically my childhood because my parents didn't invest their money in putting us into like structured
Right.
extracurricular activities.
Like it's hard because when you talk about investing into your kids' future, for example, my parents invested a lot of money into me playing basketball, Chinese school, and all that stuff. And I can tell you, I'm a really shitty Chinese speaker. I didn't go professional basketball, or any of that stuff. But the investment that came out of it was that I am a very structured person and a very busy person, and I can handle busyness because I never really had a break.
Got okay. That makes actual perfect sense as to how you are, because like you never stop doing something once you're done with one thing, or before you even finish one thing, you're like tapping into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Right.
Yeah. Like whereas for my parents, it's like they'll let me try certain things because I express interest in it, but then after a while they're like, well, we don't have time or we can't afford it, and then I would just like have to stop what I'm doing, and then that's it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, our childhood was pretty different.
Yours and mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very different.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like we were starting this episode about how kids nowadays use so much technology, but really it's just an excuse because maybe today's parenting is worse than before, or like, not worse than before. Not, it's more like,
I wouldn't say worse, but I would say like even my parents say this till this day. They say that, parenting was much easier back then, even though they didn't have much back then. But the demand for things weren't as crazy, and the expectations and everything.
It's the expectations because now we know what it takes to be the best of anything that we want to do or learn, because it's the being the best is out there on the internet.
Yeah.
How to be the best, right? And so that's why the expectations are so much more difficult now and so much more demanding, because you expect, if this is the way to do it the best, then you should know.
Yeah.
These people are laying it out for you on the internet, right?
Yeah, or it's like when we have to feed the kids food and stuff, like we used to stress so much if they wouldn't eat, and we would worry about them not getting enough nutrition or that they would starve and stuff like that, right? So when my parents see that, they're like, dang, like it was not like that back then. Before, like if you had time to eat, you would eat. If I had time to feed you, like that would have been awesome, but I didn't have time to do it. So they would just put the food out there. If you're going to eat, you eat. If you don't, you starve. You eat later, whenever you want.
And I think that trauma is what affected us today to force our kids to eat healthy and a lot at every meal. Because when your parents and my parents say, we feed you when you have time, we didn't have to do all this stuff before.
Yeah.
Well, look at me. I'm short. I'm not tall. I'm not muscular. And look at you. You're shorter than me, right? So, like, now with this trauma, I don't want my kids to be this small. I want them to continue to drink milk until they're 20. I want them to eat as much as they can so they can be taller than us.
We want to give them a chance to grow and to thrive, which we didn't have.
What traumatized me with that is that I probably stopped drinking milk in middle school or even elementary school, and as I get older into high school and I'm playing basketball, I'm getting hurt a lot because the people are bigger, their elbows and bones are stronger, and when they hit you with them, you're like, oh, what is that? Why are they so much stronger? It's because they get fed properly. So going through all that pain as a basketball kid, I don't want my son to go through that if he's going to play ball.
Yeah.
I want him, I eat your chicken every day. Drink your milk every day. You need all this protein, right? And so I'm getting him ready for that.
Yeah.
So my parents, they don't see it. Like, why are you doing all this to your kids?
It's because they didn't have the resources and the research wasn't there.
But it's not even the resources. It's based off just my experience.
Yeah.
It would hurt when I got hit because I wasn't strong enough, right? So why would I want my kids to go through that?
Right. And they wouldn't think that, oh, well, it's because you're not eating enough stuff.
No, we're just eating rice all day.
Yeah, like we just grew up eating
what I mean?
rice or like porridge and not enough like protein and stuff to
Right.
help us build muscle and mass.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's, not having the resources, not being able to just have the internet and be able to like Google what's important for you,
Right.
what your diet should look like on a daily basis. And I think that's probably why we obsess over what our kids eat and buying the right things for them and making sure that they have too much food.
Well, the reason, the way I learned it was because in school I would ask my my own teammates, I'd be like, "What do you eat every day?" And they'd be like, "I eat oven roasted chicken every day." And I'm like, "Every day?" You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do I eat?" I'm like, "I eat like roast pork, which is fatty, some fatty duck, dumplings, rice, fish." And I'm like, "Damn,
Yeah,
that's
it was
why
a
that's
lot of
why I'm
fish.
soft, right?"
Yeah, that's true.
So
We fair, fairly healthy at times, right? Or it's like not as
we're eating healthy. It's
yeah,
just stuff that doesn't make
wouldn't help
us
you to get bigger.
it doesn't make our bones hard, and
Mm,
it makes us just really pudgy and soft, you know?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just then yeah, I mean everything is just so different.
Yeah.
So I mean like at this age, is it okay for our kids to have that technology and access? Because if we were to have them outdoors, we would need to be there with them teaching,
Yes.
because we are there teaching them how to ride a bike, teaching them how to kick a ball, things like that. But man, it's tiring nowadays, with all the work that we have, and then having to teach kids how to do things and learn new sports and whatever. It's a lot.
Yeah, cuz before with our parents it's like they would just try to teach you the basics and then you kind of just figure it out on your own. And then
I don't remember if my parents taught me how to ride a bike or a skateboard. I might have just picked that up
I
myself.
mean, I may have had aunts and uncles that would put
Mm,
time to raise us cuz we had a whole village that was raising us. Like they would we that's what we had mostly growing up. Like we spent so much time with them and
mm-hmm.
they're more Americanized. So they would be able to like teach us more things and educate us on things and pretty much kind of raised us. But having access to the technology and everything, I feel like it's good, but you just kind of have to balance it out. And I think that's why they just say parenting is much more difficult because it's more demanding because parents want to fill voids that they had like growing up. Like
Yeah.
we didn't have that connection and emotional connection with our families and our parents. So now we're like, well, I don't want that, and I don't want to live with that resentment or have our kids resent us for not like having that relationship with them. And that's like the cost of wanting to be more involved. It's like you want to teach them all these things, you want to spend time with them, build that relationship, but that means you have to sacrifice your own time. So you're
Right.
not you're not able to do self-care. You can't do things like for the relationship with each other because we're
Yeah.
like, dang, we got to sign these kids up for these things and then we have to make sure that we maintain it and that they are absorbing everything that we're teaching them.
I think what I've learned from this episode is that it's not what is the difference between children then and now.
Mm-hmm.
It's what is the difference between parenting then and now.
Yeah.
That's what this has become.
It goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
right? That's why our childhood back then is what makes it different now because we've learned and been through it and we want to avoid certain things, but we also want to keep certain values that we've had growing up,
Right.
right? Like for me, one of my values, and I think one of the most important things that I remember growing up was having family dinners together. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was a big thing for me, or like having meals together, because a lot of the times now, like I don't know, they show it on shows and movies and TVs, like these reality shows are a big thing right now.
Right.
So it's like you see these people and families eating on their own. Like the kids are upstairs eating in their rooms and the parents are like eating on their own, like they're eating separately. And I'm like, dang, that's one thing with social media too. Like as our kids get older, I kind of want to keep them away from the media because they might see how these celebrities and other people are and how their lifestyles are and be like, well, that's how it's supposed to be. But why do my parents keep wanting us to have dinners together and
I
stuff
mean,
like that?
I think it's also different. So, like, back then when we were always having family meals,
Mm-hmm.
it was only dinner only, right?
Usually,
Because
no, not for
because
me.
oh well, my parents are working all day,
Right. Okay.
so all we have time is for dinner,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so by the time the parents come home for dinner, their work has shut off, right?
Yes.
Now with me specifically, it's different because I work from home, so I eat lunch and I go back to work, or then in the middle of work, I gotta go pick up kids or do something else. And so I don't get to finish my work in a normal work hour or work day. It's like always incomplete. And so when we have our lunch and dinners, I tend to leave a little bit early and go back to work because I
A
don't
lot earlier.
because I don't have the full 8 hour work day like everyone else.
Mm.
So breaking up incomplete work is a lot harder and more of a distraction. So I just felt like it's different. You know, I don't get to shut off because I have to make up for the times that I miss when I went to eat lunch or pick up the kids or whatever. Like, you know, so it's a lot harder. Um, yeah, you know, that's a pretty big thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I don't want the kids growing up feeling like that's what they should be doing or that's
Right.
how a normal life.
But it's different. So like, look, if if I lost 2 hours of my day because I had to do stuff around the house, then I got to make up for those 2 hours of work at some point, right? But if I think the kids would at some point understand, wow, my dad was home every day for lunch. He was home every day for dinner. You know what I mean? When they talk to their friends might say, I never have lunch with my dad or have dinner with my dad. You
Yeah, I
know?
mean, like once in a while is fine, but then once you start making it a habit where it's like you're there for dinner for like 10 minutes, you're done eating, and then you're out like on a daily basis, then that
Yeah.
becomes too much because then to them, they're like, oh, well, this is normal. This is how, like, our son and daughter might be like, well, this is how it's supposed to be when I have families. I'm going to do the same thing. And
No, we just need our kids to also eat in 10 minutes so we can all leave
I
and do
mean,
our
10
thing.
minutes is not
You
realistic.
know what I mean? But
So,
like, I can't stay with them for friggin' over an hour,
yeah, I
you
mean, it
know?
doesn't have to be, but at least like being present I think is the most important part. So it's like if you're there for only 10 minutes and you're on your phone or trying to do other things, then it's kind of like you're showing them that like this is more important than our quality time together and actually connecting. And I think that's
Right.
one thing I want to ingrain with our kids and the family is that when we're at the dinner table, like no distractions, we should be present and talking to each other and not like looking at other things.
You know, at my dinner table when I was younger, there weren't any of those distractions.
No,
But at the same
exactly.
time, it was just seriousness of eating. Like, there was really no talking.
I mean, I feel like there were like small things at least. Like, yeah, everyone's trying to eat, but at the same time, everyone's doing the same thing together.
It's more of like the parents talking to each other, and then the kids
And the
don't
kids
talk.
jumping in or something. Like for us, we would jump in on stuff or we'll talk about
Oh.
our day or whatever it is. Like, and I think that's like how we bonded, just like making little commentary about things here and there.
My jump in would be like, wait, what are you guys talking about? And they say, nothing. And I'm like, oh, keep eating.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's how you want it to be. So it's like if our kids ask us stuff, um, it depends. I try to communicate with them as much as I can, but also I try to cut it off so that they don't get distracted with eating.
Right.
But I try to be present because if they ask us stuff and I'm like not paying attention, they notice it. You know, our kids notice everything.
All right. So I learned a lot about how different our childhoods were from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I do find it okay that our kids are playing with a little bit of technology because as Leia is becoming 7-year old soon, she's going to be outdoors a lot more,
True.
you know?
And I think it's good too. Well, I mean, you know, there's pros and cons. So it's like as long as you balance it and if they're watching things and playing games, it's very educational, right? It's
Yeah.
things that they can learn from. But when they start asking too much and wanting to ask for the tablet like every single day, then it becomes too much. And that's when I have to put my foot down and be like,
Yeah.
you'll have your set times and that's it.
So find the balance, guys.
Be more
Parents.
present with your kids. You're always going to have to work. I get it. And work and life is more demanding than it used to ever be.
Yep.
But
And sign your kids up for stuff.
yeah.
That's a big one. Sign them up. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Love and Rice Podcast. Give us a like and a comment. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and TikTok and Instagram.
And for the platforms that you guys can actually comment on, like we would actually love to hear your experiences because we're always talking about ours, but like I want to know like how other people's households were and how their families were. What's normal, what's not, you know?
Yeah. Is our conversations just us only, or are you guys actually relating to this? You know,
Yeah.
that's what I want to know. So next time, guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Love and Rice.
Bye.